Today, a disturbing Dr. Phil exclusive.
3 people in jail. There were children that they allegedly locked in these filthy cages.
A mother and grandparents accused of locking their children
in cages where they can't even stand up.
Just the fact that they were in those cages, you could clearly see the locks on them.
The father says the house was filthy, unclean, nasty, bugs.
I describe it as a house of horrors. The pictures speak for themselves.
Shocking details.
My grandpa built them for safety reasons.
From family members.
You said that there were just tops on cribs.
There was no such thing as locks on there. I just believe it is a big misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's a pretty big misunderstanding. Did your daughter have a key to the lock? I mean, why did she not just open the cages? This, to me, is beyond egregious. Today's going to be a changing day in your life. You've never had anybody working harder to bring you to the threshold of change than right now. Today, inside an Alabama home where police claim a family locked 2 children in terrifying homemade cages. According to the DA, when investigators responded to a welfare call, they discovered a scene that looked like something out of a horror movie. Police claim some of the children in this house had their baby beds turned into wooden prisons. Authorities released photos of the shocking enclosures. The images show cribs with bars on all 4 sides and large metal bolts and locks on top. In chilling detail, you can see a child's scribbles on the walls just around the perimeter of the cage, perhaps where a tiny hand was able to reach through the bars and draw while confined. 3 people were arrested, and the children's great-grandparents, Pamela and James Bond, and their granddaughter, who is the children's mother, Kyla Mann, were charged with aggravated child abuse and reckless endangerment. Take a look.
Developing story tonight as 5 children are in the care of the Lee County Department of Human Resources tonight.
3 people in jail in this horrific case. There were children that they allegedly locked in these filthy cages inside an Alabama home.
Authorities received information about a possible child abuse situation and did a welfare check at the home.
Cribs and beds fashioned into cages with locks on them. Investigators say they found these 4 children, ages 3, 4, 10, and 11, inside the home. Officers say there was evidence that those kids had been locked up.
Investigators say an 8-month-old baby also lives at the home, but was not home during the welfare check. Authorities arrested 66-year-old Pamela Bond, 69-year-old James Bond, and 30-year-old Kyla Mann, and charged them each with several counts of aggravated child abuse and reckless.
Children who live there are in the...
We see the locks on them. How could anybody do that to a 3- and 4-year-old? This was neglect, abuse. I love my daughter very much, but I knew it was going to get her into trouble. I had no choice but to turn the photos in. Kids come first. I reported it to the Department of Health and Human Services. The children were pulled from the home that evening. I think Pam and Jim are monsters. The 30-plus years that I've known the Bond family, out of all of them, Pam has been the most vindictive and two-faced. She's not a good person. Pam Bond is the manipulator. Jim kind of just goes by what she tells him. You don't put children in cages. It's beyond gut-wrenching. I'm at a loss for words. There are no words for this. I most definitely think they're child abusers and are going to get what they deserve. They deserve to go to prison for this. Say what they think of being locked in a cage.
Well, Teresa, these children are your daughter's children, correct?
Correct.
And you say that you received a text from your daughter of these pictures saying that you were not going to like them. Why did she send you these pictures? She was incriminating herself.
She was incriminating herself, and when she sent me the pictures, she had begged me, please do not turn the pictures in to authorities for at least 2 weeks because she was trying to find housing for herself and her 8-month-old.
Okay. How many children does she have altogether?
She has a total of 5 children, and she is pregnant with her 6th.
Not that you're supposed to know the answer to this, but do you have any idea why she continues to have children?
I have no idea. I've told her for years. You know, you don't take care of your children the way it is, so, you know.
I mean, exactly.
she's
She
done.
has children and she can't take care of the ones that she has.
Exactly.
Then you would think that she would think, you know, maybe I need to get my life in order before I continue to bring children into this world.
Correct.
She lost custody of 4.
Correct.
So these 4 children then become custody of these 2 great-grandparents.
Correct.
Did she have a key to the lock?
Honestly, Dr. Phil, I have no idea.
Did you ask her?
I did
I mean, why
not.
did she not just open the cages and say, you're not going to put my kids in a cage?
I don't know if she felt because she doesn't have custody of the children and I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how
Well,
to
she
answer
may
that
not have
question.
custody, but she has common sense, right? I mean, it
Well-
takes common sense to know you don't cage children up.
Exactly.
Okay, so you got a text on Saturday and you reported it on Monday.
Correct.
And they came in for a wellness check.
But they went in and saw the cages and pulled the kids that evening.
Okay, and the children are now in foster care?
Correct.
This is her text to you on January 11th of 2020. You say, send me copies. Yeah, I told you. You say, I am blank pissed. Kyla, I told you there ain't blank in the CPS will do here. Okay, now you're talking about the pictures.
Correct.
That you've gotten here. And Teresa says, I'm reporting it. I'm going to show the senator too. Something will be done, even if it means I get custody and you move back up here eventually. Kyla, yeah, I know. I wouldn't care if you got custody of them, but something needs to be done. And you say, oh, something will be done, all right. By the way, where did you get your shoes? You lost me there.
She had sent me a picture of a pair of shoes that she bought from work that I liked.
So my grandchildren are in cages by people I consider monsters. Where'd you get your shoes? Were you taking it seriously?
I was, Dr. Phil. Otherwise, I would have waited to turn it in.
Yeah. Okay, so did you talk to her after she was arrested?
I have not talked to her since she was arrested, no.
What do you think her attitude is now?
I found out yesterday that she is currently on suicide watch because she tried to kill herself.
Well, coming up, these children weren't just locked up in cages. Teresa says they were physically abused and neglected by their mother as well. We're going to find out what all that means when we come back.
Kyla does not know what it means to be a mother. Kyla's been abusive mentally, emotionally, physically.
And later,
I was told that my sister put the locks on there.
so she went and got a flange, put an eyelet in there. That looks pretty square. I mean, it looks level. Your daughter that handy with tools?
No.
Trying to get custody of the 3- and 4-year-old. The 2 and as far as the 2 little ones, I just believe that currently pregnant with her 6, not bathing them. I had to step in. I love my daughter very much, but she has a lot of issues. She does not know what it means to be a mother. My daughter's not innocent in this at all.
Is there ever a time that she was not a neglectful mother?
No. Never.
You say she didn't bathe the children,
No.
feed the children.
No. Didn't change their diapers on a regular basis.
So what did she do
Collected money from the state.
for the children?
So for the 2 children, it was $364.
Now, you say that she was manipulated and brainwashed by her grandparents into thinking abusive parenting is normal. How so?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that, Dr. Phil, but Pam and Jim are the ones that raised her. And after this incident, it's hard telling how she was raised.
What do you mean Pam and Jim raised her?
Pam and Jim raised her, or Kyla's father, David, ended up getting majority custody of Kyla when she was about 6 years old due to An incident that me and David got into.
And what was that?
When she was a baby, and it progressed for years, but David and I ended up getting into trouble for writing bad checks, and did some time for that. Not prison time, but jail time. And
And how old was she when you went to jail?
she was 3 months old.
The father of 2 of those children is here today speaking out in an exclusive interview. He says he will stop at nothing to win custody of those children. In order to get custody, you have to meet certain criteria.
With all due respect, I think I can give them a home where they're not locked in cages.
Well, that's a pretty low standard. And later, you think this is just a setup of your grandparents?
I do believe that. My grandma has told me multiple times that there were no locks on there.
You can see it clearly.
The father of 2 of those children says he was heartbroken and sickened when he saw the photos of his children locked in wooden cages. He says he will stop at nothing to win custody of those children. But Teresa says there's no way Brandon is a fit parent. Take a look.
In my opinion, I don't feel, due to past issues, Brandon would be appropriate to raise his children. I believe Brandon is very incapable. In fact, when the 4-year-old was first born, he showed no interest. He's also a lot like Kyla, can't hold down a job, bounces from home to home. Brandon's not stable at all. He's been homeless in the past, just very irresponsible. He would not be the father of the year.
Brandon, when did you learn about this and how did you find out what was going on?
I learned of it on Tuesday, the Tuesday after it was reported. A family member saw it on the news report and sent me a message and said that I needed to check out what was going on with my kids.
So you say you were horrified when you saw photos of your children in cages. I mean, what was your reaction? What'd you think? What'd you say to yourself?
At first, I thought maybe it was some kind of sick joke. I mean, how could, a mother that claims she loved her kids so much allow that to happen to them?
Well, a sick joke, you mean something would get on the news like that was a joke?
Edited pictures and stuff will make it around the internet, and I thought maybe she found something similar to that.
So you didn't see it on television, you saw it on the internet?
Right.
Okay. You say your 4-year-old son can't talk in full sentences and your 3-year-old barely speaks at all.
Right. I was told when I called the Department of Human Resources that the kids are doing well, but they're concerned because they can't speak.
You were also told that the children were underweight and showed signs of malnourishment?
Yes.
So why have you not been in their life?
I was not allowed in.
Why not?
Kyla, her grandparents, most of her family for that matter, have effectively pushed me out of the picture.
You understand, in order to get custody, you have to meet certain criteria, beginning with a stable home life that's safe and secure, and medical care and dental care and supervision and all of these things. Is provide that?
Yes, sir. With all.
Well, that's a pretty low standard.
Right.
This was all a twisted plot for revenge. We're going to hear what he means by that when we come back.
My grandma told me that she told my grandpa to build the cages because they were getting overwhelmed and taking care of 5 kids. And yes, one of them does look like a cage, which it does look pretty bad.
people in East Alabama behind bars facing numerous charges, including child abuse, after authorities say they found cages for children in the home.
You would think certainly caretakers, no matter what capacity, right, you're going to make sure that children are safe. And certainly children, as we look at these disturbing pictures, are not kept in cages. Now those three have to face the piper.
Well, today, 2 young children allegedly locked in cages inside a house that the district attorney says wasn't fit for animals to live in, let alone children. But the uncle of those children is here today, and he says his grandparents are loving people. And this isn't how it looks. It just is not what it appears. This was all just in place for the children's safety. This was for their best interest. Take a look.
3 days ago, my dad called me and told me that my grandparents and my sister were arrested. So I was in shock. I couldn't believe it because my grandparents literally do nothing bad. They're the most charming people you'd ever meet. I used to live in the house. I moved out about a year ago because me and my sister did not get along. There were no cages when I lived there. And when I lived there, the kids were happy. There was always laughter. They loved school. They loved my grandparents. The cribs were never intended to be cages. They were just supposed to be regular cribs with just tops on them to make sure they didn't fall out of bed. So my grandpa just built them for safety reasons. And yes, one of them does look like a cage, which it does look pretty bad. My grandpa built them because my grandma wanted the kids to be able to stay in bed, not get out or fall out of bed. He made sure no locks were on it. He made sure it was easy to open. My grandma told me that she told my grandpa to build them because they were getting overwhelmed with taking care of 5 kids because my sister would not do anything. In my opinion, she's a horrible mom. I believe that she will never be able to know how to take care of a child in her life. My grandparents would feed all the kids, would take care of them, wash them, would make sure all their clothes were clean. When my sister would sit there on the chair all day, watch TV, play on her phone, wouldn't do anything. They have tried their absolute best to raise 5 children on their own. I believe my grandpa, James, should have never built those cages. It was a case of poor judgment, a big misunderstanding.
Well, Gunnar Bond says his sister was so angry that her grandparents had custody of her kids that she allegedly came up with a sick, twisted plot to frame them and send them to jail.
Kyla lost custody of the kids, so my grandparents filed for custody for the kids, which they won. So my sister thought of this whole idea and took pictures to set my grandma and grandpa up, make them look like bad people. Kyla took several pictures of the cribs and sent them to her mother, and her mother sent them to authorities. And the reason Kyla did this is because she wanted to get custody of her children back, but because she lived in the house, she also got arrested for it. She did that to make my grandparents look like they were abusing the children, putting them in cages and locking them up. So my sister planned this whole situation, but it backfired on her.
Well, joining us now is David Bond, Kyla's father, and the son of Pamela and James Bond. So, Gunnar, thank you. David, thank you for being here. So, guys, this to me looks pretty bad. This looks pretty egregious.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Look bad.
So, what do y'all say? David, what do you say?
Only thing I can say is I've been estranged from the family the last 3.5, 4 years. I know my mom would text every now and then. The little boy, he used to get out in the yard 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. They found him out in the highway playing. Next door neighbors brought him home 4 o'clock in the morning. They couldn't keep him in the house, keep him out of the cupboards. I mean, and I don't condone there being tops on those cages. There shouldn't have been. But that's the reasoning why that was, to keep him in the house.
Well, are you justifying it? Are you saying it's okay?
No.
Because you're saying that the kids run out in the street.
No.
Well, supervise them. What the hell are you talking about?
What you're talking about? I did a poor judgment on their call. Very poor judgment.
And what do you think this is just a setup of your grandparents?
I do believe that. My sister's been living there for, and why couldn't she take the pictures while they're there? Right.
her
The
children?
whole family's handy with tools.
So she went and got a flange and affixed it to the top, put an eyelet in there, affixed it to the bottom, then got a padlock and put it in there and took the picture with the baby in it.
Yes, sir.
Your daughter that handy with tools?
No, no, she's not. And not only that, but, you know, I was actually in court last Wednesday when this was all presented to the judge.
Because that looks pretty square. I mean, it looks level. I mean, somebody had to level that and get it straight and put it on there right. That doesn't look to me like somebody went and stuck a lock on there just to take a picture while people were gone from the house. That looks like it's pretty carefully put on there. I mean, I don't know. So in order to take that picture, she would have had to have been left in supervision of the children because the two were gone.
She was.
Right, she was.
Okay, so they leave her in supervision of the children. And so she took them and put them in the cage, installed the lock, put it on, took the picture, then took the children out, took the lock off, so when they got back home, they wouldn't see any locks on there.
Well, no, I don't believe she took the lock off.
Well, if they didn't know there were locks on there, wouldn't they come home and say, well, where the hell did that come from?
Yes.
Is that their story?
Well, that's what I believe.
You say that you've seen your sister abuse her children.
Yes.
In what way?
They could sit there and watch TV. They get popped one time. The oldest got hit with a toy upside the head one time because she just got mad for no reason. Because
She used to abuse him, and I used to go after her, put it that way.
Well, why didn't you do anything about it?
I've been estranged from her.
And you've seen her abuse the children.
Yes.
Did you report it?
No. I told my grandma and grandpa yes, but I don't believe they never reported it.
Why did you not report it?
Because honestly, I didn't really know how to at the time.
How old were you?
I was around 12 or 13.
So you know who to call, you know how social services work or anything when you're 12 years old. You don't know how the system works.
Yeah, I never.
I get it. At this point, you're 19, right?
I'm 18.
18. So this has gone on for years with the older two, and then the last 3 or 4 years with the younger two.
Yes.
And you've been aware that they've been abusing these children in the home just by reason and rationale because you know how she is.
Yes.
But you didn't think your grandparents were.
No.
No. I just believe it is a big misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's a pretty big
But
misunderstanding.
it looks bad. I believe that. I believe my grandpa would have thought better instead of putting tops on the bed, but would have sat there and made the cribs look differently, and with no tops on there, it would have been a better situation.
Oh, well, Gunner says that Kyla's mom, Teresa, has a hidden agenda. We'll explain what he means by that next.
I believe that she asked her mom to help her, but it backfired on her.
Do you believe she is in a position to take care of children?
Absolutely not, Dr. Phil.
Teresa, Brandon, Gunner, and David are here. Now, they are all related to the children who authorities say were living in horrific conditions and homemade wooden cages with metal locks on the top. Now, again, David is Kyla's father, and his parents are the ones who owned the home and allegedly built the tops to put on these cages. He suspects the grandfather's the one that built the tops to go on these cages. But he says this is not child abuse. You say you think she has an agenda here. What is it?
My sister has always tried to fight to get custody of her kids back and everything, and it just never has worked every single time she tried doing it. So I believe that she asked her mom to help her do it, but it backfired on her because she lived in the house.
Yeah, well, that'll happen.
Yeah.
When you send pictures of children in cages with locks on the top, what happens if there's a fire in the house?
Exactly.
I have no idea, honestly.
I thought the same thing.
You can't get in there and get those open. And if the children run into the street, there are a number of remedies for that kind of thing, short of caging children in cages where they can't even stand up.
Yes, sir.
So you believe that she was going to get you to help her? Believe she is in a position to take care of children?
Absolutely not, Dr. Phil.
Brandon claims that authorities told him that 3- and 4-year-old can barely speak.
When I lived there,
cannot say strongly enough how much I support you in pursuing these charges against these people. This just seems like the right thing to do and the right reason. Was there any question at all about whether this should be pursued by your office? Has anybody questioned that?
None. No question whatsoever. No one's questioned it whatsoever. The Lee County Sheriff's Office that came to us described what they saw, and it did not take long to authorize warrants and move forward to getting those children out of there.
Did they comment on the state of the house when they went in? Brandon says the house was filthy, unclean, nasty, bugs, et cetera, et cetera. It just was not a clean place.
I describe it as a house of horrors, and that's not hyperbole. We handle child abuse cases. I've prosecuted capital murder for children killed by their abusers, and this is far and away the worst scene, just visually speaking, that I've been a part of.
So when you take these people to trial, where does this go? What are they looking at? I assume child endangerment. These children were supposedly malnourished. What are the charges they will face at trial?
The most serious charges are aggravated child abuse of child under 6. Each of the individuals is charged with 2 counts of the aggravated child abuse. That's an A felony that they can receive up to life in prison.
Now, there was also one charge of tampering with evidence. That was Pamela. What was the tampering with evidence?
The allegation is that when law enforcement showed up with a search warrant, that she removed herself from the room, went back to where the cages were, removed a padlock, and disposed of that padlock.
So what do you think of the family saying that Kyla is the guilty one here? She didn't have custody, but she's there. She did call her mother. Is she as culpable as the 2 others that were involved in this, the 2 that did have custody?
You know, that's something we're going to have to prove. Obviously, we've charged her as if she was a principal actor. We've charged her as if she knew well what was going on. We've charged her as if she was involved in the action itself, and that's what we're prepared to prosecute.
Right. And she took the pictures and sent them to you, so she certainly well knew
Correct.
what was going on. Now, they say this was done to keep the children safe. What do you think of that explanation?
I think that's garbage.
Without going into any details that would compromise privacy, can you tell us how the children are doing now?
I can't tell you how they're doing now. You know, that's one of the things that affected me or that I thought about is that's what these children have come to know as normal. And what was that first night for them out of that house? What was that first day for them out of that house when they were sleeping in a real bed, had people taking care of them, when they realized, you know what, this is how it's supposed to be. That's what I think about.
I certainly do too, and I appreciate your willingness to come on and talk about this, because I want people to know in Alabama and everywhere else that this is taken serious by law enforcement, and that law enforcement in concert with Family Services does spring into action and come in and rescue these children when they need rescuing. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. I can't tell you how much it means. Now, Brandon and Teresa both say they want custody of these children, but should either of them get it? Well, I have an expert to weigh in on that next. Well, joining us today is Dr. Charles Sophy. Now, Dr. Sophy is a board-certified psychiatrist in 3 different clinical specialties, and he's also the medical director for the Department of Child and Family Services for Los Angeles, which is the largest agency in the entire country. Now, Dr. Sophy, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You've seen everything there is. You've seen situations like this. Is there any theory under which this is justifiable?
Absolutely not. No way. It's child abuse on every count, every level. Their brains stop growing. Their muscles stop growing. They just are stagnant and they are traumatized.
Yeah.
They didn't just get out and go eat and they're happy. These kids are going to work through a lot of issues over the next couple of years.
And that's why I say I don't question Gunner's authenticity when he says what he says about the 4-year-old being more verbal before when he was there. That's why I said it seems to me like very likely there's been regression. You know, Brandon says he would like to have custody of the children. Is that a possibility? Teresa says she would like to have custody of the children. I think here, just from 10,000 feet flying over, how does this look?
For them, I think it looks pretty bad because they're that interested now.